right, there we go. Ho, ho, ho. I'm hoping this will take like an hour, maybe less. So we'll see. Because I got some stuff I got to prep for the next guy as well.
Sounds good.
But if it takes longer, it takes longer. I'm not too worried about it.
Yeah. Oh, that's how it works.
Welcome to the Sneaky Paladin, resident tavern of the Tavern League. You're just in time for the merriment, as tNomad has just ordered a free round on the house. We offer an assortment of ales, but nothing wets your tongue better than Stone Mug's brew. So go on and sit down, gather round the fire. Come on, come all and drink your fill. Listen to the bardic music. The Tavern League is on their way. All right. Hello, hello, hello. Let me get some stuff set up. Ugh. Ooh, didn't want to open that. So good morning and welcome to the first origin story session for my Tyranny of Dragons campaign. Today, I have M. Weber, who will be running us through his character Qualamir's backstory. Did I get that right, Qualamir?
Yes.
Yes? Awesome. First try. I got the name right.
I wanted something that was very simplistic.
Yeah, I like it. Sometimes people overthink their names, and then they make this crazy name that no one can pronounce, and nobody pronounces it right, like on purpose. But yeah, I think that's a great name. So I don't know. I can't really think of any way that someone's gonna mess that up.
It's very phonetically pleasing.
Yes, it is. I really like it. So right now we have M. Weber, and later we will witness Lord Veloth's story in Brother Co. But for now, good morning, M. Weber. I know it's super early for you.
No, it's just 7:30.
7:30? That's super early. So, let's see here. All right. So this is something I am rather excited about. I'm doing origin sessions for all of my players, which is to say, I'm taking their backstories that they came up with and putting each player through their own stories in character as a one-on-one session. This way, we all get to experience each character's story leading up to the start of the campaign, maybe get a little more invested in certain characters along the way. So I'm very excited for that. I think it's a very fun idea. A little bit of a tutorial, I guess, as well. Get a feel for players and DM alike. We are using Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition rules with a few homebrew items that we'll all see as the play goes on. We are also using Fantasy Grounds Unity, for which it is important to note that it's still in beta. So that means it's not quite finished and is not indicative of the actual release gameplay. There's a few bugs they continue to work on, but it's an amazing engine that I have been having a lot of fun playing on. Remember to look up my socials, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook. Even join my Discord. Give me a like, a follow, a subscribe, whatever you wish to do to support my stream and keep the games coming. You may also stay up to date with what the Tavern League is up to and when we will be playing next. They are all listed on my Twitch channels about me, or else you can just look up Tavern League on the various platforms. So, without further ado, let's begin. Change some ambiance. You hear that all right on your end?
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Okay. Because I got the music. I got the music going now. All right. So, here we see a little village out in the middle of nowhere. Does not see any trade. This is a secluded village out in the woods. No one comes by, so you can understand it's pretty superstitious. It is ruled over by a superstitious hag who kind of is the shaman of the village, and she helps everybody, overlooks them, and kind of dictates what the villagers do to stay alive. They all trust her. So then we can open up this sheet. So this is your little village. This is where you are. Pull up some tokens. So we'll say that this is a couple right here. And they are pregnant. So the lady tells her husband that she's pregnant. And they go to the village elder, which is that crone, to get guidance, basically. They find out that they are supposed to have twins. And the crone tells them that this is good fortune, for they are supposed to have male twins, and it is a good omen. And as time goes on, they come to the date where she is supposed to have the child, and it's a dark moon. And on the night of the child's birth, the crone is in the birthing chamber, helping them birth their child, and only one comes out. And so she's like, kind of goes nuts and say, "This is a bad omen, bad omen." And she informs the couple after the child comes out, after she births the kid, that it is a bad omen, and he swallowed his brother in the womb. And she fortune tells that, I gotta change this. There we go. She tells the fortune that the child is fated to swallow up the village, and they must get rid of her, or they must get rid of him. So she tells them, "You must travel to the woods. Follow the stream north, and you will find a trail. It will take you to a ruins. There is a doorway dug into the earth. You must enter and leave the child on the stone slab in the center, and then leave. Come back to the village. And so here, I will have you roleplay the parents for a little bit.
The mom says, "What do you mean we have to give up the child?"
He is cursed. He must not be allowed to live. You must take him to the forest and let the wilderness take him.
The dad looks over to the wife, grabs the baby boy. Was like, if you will not do it, then I will, for the sake of our village.
Ooh,
And he'll
cold-hearted.
continue to walk off as the wife kind of begs him not to.
Okay. So then you walk. He takes the kid, not her, just him.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
Gotcha.
don't think she'd be, after just giving birth,
Yeah, you're right. That makes sense.
mentally up to it and
Yeah.
physically up to it.
Definitely not. So he takes the kid and goes north. If you wouldn't mind rolling a perception score for me real quick. Yes, so as the husband, leaves the hut, the wife, laying in bed, looks up at the old crone, and she has the slightest smirk coming from the side of her face as she, too, leaves the chamber. So he's traveling north, goes into the woods. Where am I? Okay, roll me a nature check. Oh, rolling good.
This beats me. Yes, this beats my yes. Today's rolls.
Yeah, so he goes to the outskirts of the village, and he just starts going north, finding the stream that leads out from the village. And he's traveling along it, keeping his eyes open, going from side to side. Roll me a perception. He hears some twigs breaking off in the distance, and all of a sudden his heart rate starts going up, frightened, feeling as if he might be being followed or stalked, but he does not see anything. Finally, he comes to a break in the stream, and he notices a sort of trail of dirt and grass beaten down, cut into the earth. A natural pathway. Does he follow it?
Yes.
Okay, so
This is where he has to do in order to protect his village and his wife.
Yes, so he veers off the stream and decides to follow this trail from his remembrance of the old crone. And he travels to eastward now, and he's following the trail, feeling eyes upon him, uneasy, unsteady. And all of a sudden, the forest starts getting a little more dense. More grasses, tall grasses and trees kind of choking the pathway, following it, until finally he comes to a clearing here. So he's on the bottom of that now. you can see this old... Oh, whoops. I gotta turn this on. Can you see that or no? Can you take that token?
I was able to see it, but then it's now just gray.
Okay. Well, I'll just use your character. We'll pretend that that's the guy. So you should be able to see it now.
Yes.
Okay. So we'll pretend that you are the guy. So you come to this kind of break in the dense forest where there is a ruins. And you can see in the middle there's a small raised portion with a well, you can't see it from here, but there's like a door on the top. And he suspects that this is the ruins that the old crone was talking about. Roll me a perception check. All right. Roll insight. Where is this? All right. So you get that same sense that you're being followed and stalked this whole time. But you remember what the crone said, that for the good of the village, you must get rid of this child, cast it out. For he is a bad omen and will be the end of all the villagers. But you can't help shake that feeling that you are being stalked from the distance by some sort of intelligent creature.
Then as the father, he wouldn't naturally just go up there then if he feels like there's something stalked. This is still it's just his blood, so he'd probably circle around the whole structure.
Okay.
Just kind of looking for any kind of thing. Because he doesn't want the death to be terrible. But he also knows that it must die for the village to succeed.
Okay.
So he kind of wants it to be in kind of like a merciful way, if that makes any sense.
Gotcha. Go ahead, roll insight. So he's trying to think of what's all going on and what this all means. Knowing that there is some sort of creature out there possibly hunting him or his newborn child. And with the directions of the crone, he knows that he's supposed to leave the child here. But with that insight roll, he can't really think of anything to do in this situation.
Okay.
He is kind of searching around the ruins for any signs or any inclination of the meaning of this creature following him. But he can't garner anything. All he sees is the broken down ruins, the stone, and there is a doorway dug into the earth in the center. So that would be right there.
So I guess he just slowly start to approach, still looking very, very somberly as he has to do this, but kind of slowly start approaching more and more. Eventually make his way up
Okay,
to
stop
the door.
right there.
Oh.
Roll perception. As you are climbing up the ruins, getting closer and closer, everything starts getting a little bit quieter. And the mist is cloaking the ruins. And it's a lot harder for you to see. In the silence, you don't hear anything. It's eerily silent.
He'll kind of be more and more spooked by this, and then realizing that the crone is probably more and more correct as it goes on.
All right.
And then he'll approach the door, and I assume it's just kind of like an open kind of thing.
Yeah.
Or...
It's more like a wooden trap door just put over a hole rather than like an actual doorway.
Okay. So then he'd kind of like slowly open up like the door, and then he'd kind of like peer inside and see how deep it is, or see kind of what like the layout is from inside of the hole.
Okay. So here is kind of the inside. So you are peering down. You basically see an open chamber with all those blue things are really cloudy mirrors, and then in the middle is just an altar with a big stone slab. It's just one chamber down underneath there. Do you go inside?
Yes.
Okay. As you start descending into the hole, closing the trapdoor above you, you hear what seems to be, but you're not quite sure, hissing laughter.
He'll kind of be startled and kind of be spooked. He'll look back at the door, but then just remembering that the old crone said that this is what's needed, he'll kind of timidly walk forward.
Okay. Roll another perception for me. So you're looking back just as you're closing the door, but you're so spooked that you actually your hand kind of slips in it and it closes down on top of you. And it echoes throughout this small chamber, damp and somewhat wet. So you are now, say right here.
Yes, and he would just slowly approach, kind of listening for more of that like hissing noise, or that like that hissing laughter.
Okay, so you're actively trying to listen for it. Go ahead,
Yes.
Roll perception. So you're kind of listening, looking around this chamber. There are no shadows. There's no light. But you can see just enough from the holes in the top ceiling from the ruins. Even through the darkness, you can just make like the outlines. And you're listening. You don't hear anything. Same, that eerie, muffled silence.
And he probably thinks to himself, it must have just been the wind. This is a
Must
very
have.
superstitious town.
Yes.
So, to him, would he have any prior knowledge of this?
No.
Kinda? Okay.
They all kind of blindly follow the crone's decrees because she keeps them alive.
Sounds good. Just want to make sure. And then, so then he would just kind of not ask timidly just anymore, because he now thinks that the voices were just kind of like a gust of wind because of, and then just try and slowly approach the altar more and more until he gets right about here. He'll kind of look down at the baby and just be like, just kind of give like a deep sigh, just be like, ah.
So as he
And
looks
then
down at the baby looks up at him, and all of a sudden he's like, this baby is eerily calm. It's kind of weird. You would think a newly born baby would be crying, but it seems calm, and its eyes, though open and can't see, seem to be looking right at him. And there is a bluish tint in them. Not blue eyes, but looking down at the baby, his eyes look almost blue.
he'll kind of be a little bit startled, and then think back to what the crone said, that this is a cursed omen, because this baby is not normal in the slightest. He is not crying. He is eerily calm. It looks like he's trying to almost communicate in a sense from the eye contact.
Yes.
So then he'll approach probably another 5 feet, and then probably look at the child again just to make sure that he's not going crazy. Because this is all happening probably within about 2 hours.
Yes. So looking down at the child again, he gets that same sense that somehow there is intelligence behind those eyes. He doesn't feel threatened. Roll an insight check. Yes, so he gets the sense that somehow, in some way, the child is trying to communicate with him. Looking into his eyes, he feels kind of a calm wash over him. Make a, let's see, what would that be? Make a wisdom save. So, he feels a sense of calm kind of wash over him as he's looking into this baby's eyes, getting the sense that it's trying to communicate with him. Then all of a sudden he remembers the crone's words. This child is cursed. He will swallow the whole village. He will be the end of life. If he is allowed to live, he must be cast into the wilderness. And then his superstitions get the best of him, and he starts freaking out and looking around, remembering the whispers he heard in the forest, the crackling of twigs, and he looks down at the child, and now, looking at him, he almost feels like it is trying to charm him.
He'll take a deeper sigh, and then in a very kind of a spooked sigh, he'll kind of step the last 5 feet, and then he'll slowly start to put down the child, and then he'll listen once again for the whispers, or like the whispering hisses.
Okay, roll a perception. So, the little bit of light from the dark moon outside is just enough to be able to see in the darkness, and there are moonbeams coming through some holes in the ceiling of this ruin. And you are looking around, all you can hear is your heartbeat in your ears. But you do see on the northern end over here some of the moonbeams get cut out slowly. You know what I mean? It's like there's there's moonbeams coming out, and then all of a sudden, like, it goes dark for a little bit, and then comes back to light.
Okay, so
And
he sees the movements.
Yeah.
At this point in time, he'd probably be spooked and takes like 15 feet back.
Okay. Did you leave the baby on the altar?
Yes, he would have already
Okay.
put the baby down and then had looked just around.
All right.
He'll be like, who's there? Still just looking around, like adrenaline's pumping, his heart's beating. He is nervous for both himself, his child that he has to give up, and for the sake of the village, he is having like three moral conflicts going on at the same time.
Yes, as his adrenaline is pumping and his blood is in his ears. Boom, 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 boom. He hears nothing. The same muffled silence. But now, in the lower left corner over here, almost as if on cue, some rocks shifting and dust kind of falls from the ceiling.
Then he'd probably think that it's kind of collapsing, and so he'll kind of not run, but kind of at like a faster walk, kind of like walk towards the hatch.
Okay. Pause right there. Make another will save. So, you get to the threshold just before you touch the hatch coming up. You feel a presence almost invading your mind. A powerful presence you feel kind of wash over you, and it almost paralyzes you for a second. But that is all that happens.
He'll look back and be like, if you have any mercy, at least make it painless.
All right. When you look back, the way you laid the baby, it almost seems like it moved itself, and it's laying on its back, arms oh shit. What is that? Whoops. Did you hear that?
Ooh. Yes, that scared me quite well.
That kind of scared me too. I forgot I have a timer that goes to session start, and I forgot to reset it for this because we started early.
Ooh.
Yeah, that scared me.
That was a perfect timing though. Like the baby had just moved.
Oh
Ooh.
man. Anyway, so it almost seems as if the baby moved. He's still lying on his back, his arms outstretched, but his head is turned to the side, looking right at you. And then you hear a coming from outside.
As in like the door is opening, or like some kind of creature?
It's a low guttural sound, not like a door.
Okay. He'll slowly walk towards the door, and he kind of mutters under his breath, I guess, a small prayer for the child, to either to a deity that they worship, and just say to watch over the child and make sure that nothing too much happens.
Okay.
And then he'll kind of proceed out. To just walk out. And then go up to the door, and then slowly open, because he did hear like the groan, and that was coming from the outside the door, right?
Yes.
So then he'll very cautiously open the door and then actively kind of scan the area to see what that was.
Okay, so now he is back outside. Okay, so he comes outside, and let's see. So he's kind of opening the hatch, peering outside from the apparent safety of the hole. Roll a perception check. he hears some movement coming from directly behind him, probably about, let's see, probably about 40 feet away.
He'll turn around spooked and he'll face that way, and then he'll slowly step out, and then if he's in a sound mind, he'd probably watch over the the kind of hole and the kind of like the burial site of his kid for at least like a prospect of an hour or just or two, just to kind of like in like sombrance, just kind of like make sure that nothing like malicious happens.
Okay, so he's gonna kind of stand watch.
Yeah, to make sure that like this thing that he hears does go away, and it's not like some random like wolf that happens to want like a free meal of his kid.
Okay. So as he exits, meaning to stay around and watch over this kid, he's looking in the direction where he heard the little bit of rustling. Make another perception check, please. So he's looking at this, what would you call that? Like a little, like a stone coming out of the earth, whatever, a standing stone.
Mm-hmm.
What he thought was vines or like a crawling type of plant on top of the coming on the side of the stone. All of a sudden he sees it kind of slowly move backwards behind the stone, and now he recognizes it looks more like a hand with green skin, and his blood is pumping.
He'd be very spooked.
Yeah, roll a Constitution save. His fear and superstition is definitely getting the best of him. He wants to stay and he wants to look after this child, but his body is telling him he needs to get the fuck out.
Yep, and at that point, as he sees the greenish, viney hand, he will then start to book it, like just straight sprinting back to his house.
Yes, and
probably tripping over several other things, and then making his way.
Yes, as he leaves this clearing, he can hear from behind him in the distance some cackling laughter. And the mist closes around him.
He'll just scream, "Oh no, 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 no. It's like, not me too."
Okay, now we will cut to, let's see. We will cut to the chamber where you are now the baby on the altar. So the baby on the altar is just sitting there. Just laying there, newly born, not crying. Just laying there in this eerie, muffled silence in this ruin. And then all of a sudden, from the entryway, the trap door, the makeshift door to this subterranean level starts creaking open. And gnarled, nasty, dirty, green hands kind of poke out from the top. And this creature starts shambling, hunched over, kind of like Gollum, you know, from Lord of the Rings.
Mm.
Just creeps forward slowly. breathing very heavily, ragged, hissing breaths. Yes. It gets to the altar, and it reaches down for the baby. A deathly, grisly, grotesque smile of crooked, gnarled teeth on his face. It reaches out a green hand to grab the baby. And once it touches the baby's skin, once it reaches out a finger, a long, pointed green finger, and moves the clothes from the baby's skin. Once it touches the baby, a brilliant blue light emanates out, blinding the area, and everything goes to stark silence with that ringing sound. The runes on the side of this slab activate, and the baby disappears after the initial burst of energy. This blue hue light emanates out, and when the monstrosity looks down again after it's blinded, it screams out in agony and frustration at the missing baby. For which we go to another rune. That's not it. Oh man, I don't think that map's saved. Here, I'll be right back.
Okay.
All right, there we go. All right. So we're now over here where we see not that guy. Where these two people are like investigating this little ruin thing, and blue light all of a sudden shines in the runes on this middle part, probably right there or whatever. All it shines blue, and then all of a sudden a baby appears, and they're like, what the hell just happened, you know? So we are in a different area now.
As the the baby would just kind of peer over and then just kind of like look one of them just straight in the eyes, and then the wandering couple in this dungeon would kind of look at each other, and then both kind of give like a faint smile and be like, "Well, we've never had this happen. We've heard
Yeah.
of a stork, but never a dungeon baby."
Roll investigation with a +5. Oof, you rolled a 1. So the man's looking, and he's like, "Well, the runes lit up. I wonder what they do." He has no idea.
And he would cautiously approach, and he'd look at the runes first, try and make sure that him walking on it wouldn't activate the runes, because he doesn't want to get because somehow a baby appeared. He doesn't want to try to like reactivate it, so he'll kind of like look down and trying to identify the runes, see what's there,
Okay.
and then
What else do we got?
once he knows that it's safe, um, he'd motion to his wife and be like, "Come grab the baby."
Okay, the wife can make an Arcana check. Roll Arcana with advantage. So she's looking at these runes, and she's like, "Ah, yes." She recognized the magic is kind of conditional. Like certain things have to happen for the magic to be activated, and the activation is over now. So she gets the sense that whatever happened is not going to happen again.
Okay, yeah. And so they'd kind of like rush towards the the baby and then probably examine it.
All right. So they pick up the baby, and first thing they notice again is the eyes. They are clouded because babies can't see right away, but for some reason they get the sense that there's an intelligence behind it, and they get that blue hue. Um, and they get the feeling almost as if it's trying to communicate with them.
Kind of look stunned and puzzled that the baby is not crying either, just like how the other couple did, and then realize that there is something special slash different about this child, and then they'd attempt to try to speak to it. They'd be like, "Who are you? How'd you get here?" Then realizing that it's a baby and it probably can't answer too well.
Yeah, so they're kind of wondering what the hell is going on, and when they're like asking like, "Who are you? Where did you come from?" It kind of gets a little smile on its face and reaches out one hand to grab their finger and squeezes.
And then probably the wife looks over to the husband with what's like, "Well, I don't see any other responsible adult figures just around here. Should we keep it?" As like a peering question. And then he'll probably look over and be like, "For now, it's at least interesting to see what makes this baby so unique."
Are you not hearing
And he'll
music?
kind of, I am now.
Oh, you are. Okay, gotcha.
I heard the little ambiance now.
Okay. Yeah. So so this baby appears, and then the couple does their initial examination, but finding that there's nothing dangerous, it seems that they decide to adopt the child, as unlikely as an event like this would happen. They seem to be opportunists, and so we can go forward, pretend there's like a montage. The child growing up. So there's a little montage going on of the child growing up in their care, where this is a traveling duo of archaeologists and dungeon delvers that go down, that research different ruins and areas in search of a great lost city, a lost ruin that they are looking for, and they're looking for any sign. They bring their child with them to learn about the great world and teach him things about ancient cultures and civilizations. The child grows up definitely different, which isn't so bad because he's not around other kids his age. He doesn't feel any sense of ostracization, but he grows up finding that there is another consciousness in his body that he kind of communicates with, and he finds that he has different psychic powers, one of them being that he can talk telepathically to people. And it is an ongoing fight between him and his parents to talk openly to others out loud instead of talking telepathically, because it's definitely a frightful experience for those that aren't used to it.
This has probably been the much of just greater debates. Probably says that it's very much easier, but then they've probably been chased out of a few towns, fewer small towns that have probably thought that this was an auspicious like demon or such.
Yeah.
It does not help that he looks a little bit different than most people, but
yes. So
he will unintentionally sometimes, as a reflex, just communicate, and then he'll sometimes say sorry, and then he'll just kind of continue just out loud.
Yeah, and without looking too closely into it, he looks normal. He's just a normal human child. But to anyone looking deeper, to anyone actually like paying attention, they sense like a almost like a shadow is over him, mainly his eyes. It's not there unless you're really looking, but his eyes are a little darker, and his skin has a weird tone to it, like an insubstantial, shadowy mist about him. And his hair seems to take on a hue that is not normal for natural creatures. It kind of also has a like bluish, a bluish, shadowy hue to it, almost insubstantial. And so he grows up with his adoptive parents, learning about the world, learning about the different cultures. They tell him about their quest to find this lost city where there is untold knowledge lost to the world after it went under. An ancient civilization of Fey elves that just had like a library of knowledge that is lost to the world they are in search of. And they're looking for clues as to the location of this library, and that is what they are traveling in the area for, because they're in the area where the ancient civilization used to live, and that is where they found him. They tell him of the story of his birth, which they only know that he came through on this like portal, I guess you could call it,
Hmm.
and that's all they know about him. They don't know about where he came from, but they're teaching him their ways, their knowledge, and he basically has the freedom to choose his own way in life.
And so, growing up this way, he probably would have went with them, read all of the books that they probably wrote down in their own journals, tried to accumulate as much kind of raw knowledge as possible, because he is, because for all intents and purposes, he kind of thinks of them as more his real parents than his other people did. 'Cause he doesn't know anything else that versus these people.
Yeah, so
And then,
growing up, he absorbs all this knowledge, and he kind of gains a proficiency all on his own. Going through all these ruins, he can determine with pretty good accuracy what types of ruins they are, dungeon ruins and dungeon. So he can tell if it's of dwarven make, elven make, human, yuan-ti, any other known race. He can determine the origin of them, where they come from, by the architecture and everything. And he also can guess reasonably well, pretty damn well, the monetary value of art objects that are more than a century old. So he gains historical knowledge.
and then his parents will often just come to him for any kind of advice for this all, because they're more in like the practical skills and just kind of taking down notes. They never really saw this as like, and then here comes along this child that helps them with just kind of being like, oh yes, it's from this book with so and so.
Yeah, he's surprisingly very good at it. Seems to have an aptitude for mental acuity.
And then he would often read probably books about also about just different gods and exactly because he also wants to know more about like the general scape of about everything, so he'd also study like the religious texts to try and see about uh, to see if there's any like known things about them and so forth.
Okay. So in their studies as well as his, doing all their research, going through ruins and talking with townsfolk about local legends and myths, and reading all of the books he can find, his parents come up to the discovery of a secluded ruin, an area that, excuse me, an area that is not very well known, hidden out in the woods, but people heard tale of a small village that came to its demise, and the ruin that's really close in proximity, and they wonder at if there was a connection or not. And so they decide, well, this is a ruin. This is exactly what we're looking for. So they decide, hey, we're gonna go check that out. We're gonna go investigate, and they decide to bring him along. What they hear of the legend is that it is very foreboding and probably a bad omen, since the village that was in such close proximity to it, all the people basically disappeared overnight. And so they ask him, "You want to come with us?"
And he'll joyfully and say, "Of course."
All right. So then they take him on their little adventure, and they get directions from the local townsfolk on where the village is, and the legend, which is to find the hidden trail along the northern stream bed, and it will take you to the ruins. So they make their way to the village. Where is it? So Qualamir is on this map. If you double click your token, it should bring you to the map, I think. There you go.
Yes.
Okay, so he comes to this village with his adoptive mother and father.
Then he'll kind of run ahead of them. He's still in his fair youth. He's still full of boundless energy that his parents can't keep up with.
Yeah,
Probably run
they're
off ahead.
definitely a
And be
bit
like,
older.
Come on. It's also the joy of finding a new ruin, since it's probably the most fun he has as a normal child.
Yes, and his father calls out to him, "Don't rush too far ahead. Remember, there could be danger."
He says, yes, yes, and just kind of keeps on, probably trailing about 5 to 10 feet like ahead of them
Okay.
until they reach probably about the townscape. And then he'll kind of walk with them
Okay.
in case if anyone kind of is too like nervous. His parents can break up any kind of conflict.
So they get to this village, and everything is broken down in not disarray, but it's broken down. It's been weathered over the years. There is nobody to be found. Everything is dusted over from years of neglect, and the wood is rotting.
And then he'll say to his dad, should we look around the town, see if we can find anything that could lead to what happened to these people?
Go ahead and roll investigation. So, Qualamir is looking around the place, picking up dusty papers and pots and pans and everything. Definitely disinterested. He doesn't find anything of note or value. And the parents are looking around. They're looking in all the huts and everything, going through the dusty surfaces, the creaking stools, and the rotting floorboards and everything. And they get to what seems to be the main hut. And the wife calls out, "Everybody, come here, quick!"
And the now interested Qualamir will dash over.
So she says, "Look at this. This looks like it's been disturbed recently. There is dust all over this place too, and it seems like it's been sitting just as long. But upon closer inspection, you do see that there is some disturbed dust, and there's like trails on the ground that the dust seems to be swept in the wake of someone's stride. And there is places on some countertops where things seem to be missing, like a bottle was once sitting there collecting dust and it was moved." Curious. Very curious, the man says. "Well, keep your eye out. Never know what's out there." Make a perception check with an accompanied insight. Oof. Qualamir, again, still pretty disinterested, not wondering about the significance of this. He kind of just tosses his head around like, "Oh man, I wonder if this is going to be anything." But with that insight roll, he gets a pang of what would you say? Curiosity. This feeling inside him, the other consciousness inside him seems to be pulling him towards the north.
Then he'll kind of talk to his parents, be like, I think we should head north. I'm not sure why. I just got this kind of hugging towards it. Like as if we should just be heading there.
Do the parents know about the other consciousness? Did he tell them?
No, he would have kept
Okay.
that decently to himself because he thought that would have been normal. He thought everyone would have
Gotcha.
had that.
Okay, so the father looks at him. He's like, "What's that, Quilomir? You want to go north?" And he looks at his wife and he says, "Well, we know where this is. We can always come back." And so they say, "All right," and they head north. They find this trail leading to the outskirts of the town to the north. Make an investigation roll for me. So Qualamir notices in this village that all the little trails and the wood planking and everything kind of leads from house to house. But interestingly enough, there is a trail that goes north leading to nowhere. And it seems kind of weird that they would have just one trail leading out to the north, which is closer into the woods, where all the civilization is down to the south.
He'll kind of scratch his head and he's like, yeah, I'm not too sure exactly, but I feel like we should just explore this. Maybe it'll lead to something.
The father says, "All right, lead on, Qualamir, we'll follow you."
And then so he'll kind of, he'll walk slowly, but with actively looking around the area, because now his interest is piqued because his other consciousness in a sense is tugging out to be like, hey, go this way. So he'll take much more like an active
Yes.
interest in this.
So as he's traveling north, the other consciousness, he can sense that it's I don't want to say happy, but it's he gets
Talkative.
yeah, he gets a sense that the consciousness is happy that he's paying attention, almost like relief. And so the trio starts traveling north along this trail. They get to the end where they see a stream that also travels north. Roll a nature. Oof. Nice roll. There you go. Wait for this.
First match 1A.
Okay, so the wife pulls the others in. She says, "Remember that there was the legend about going north and following a stream to the hidden trail? Maybe this is it." And Qualamir is very confident that he kind of almost remembers this. Like there's a sense in his memories that this is somehow familiar to him. And so he is able to follow this stream very clearly until he brings the parents to a trail kind of naturally dug into the earth, traveling eastward from the stream.
He'll kind of just be running ahead, being like, come on, come on.
Yes, Qualamir, don't get too far ahead. We are old. There could be danger. Stay close.
And then he'll kind of, when he's a little bit further ahead, he'll kind of like actively scan the area, and then just kind of continue just doing that. For that way, they can make sure that if there is trouble, they'll at least be just prepared for it.
All right, go ahead and roll perception. So Qualamir is looking around in this forest. He gets to the intersection of the stream and the newly found trail, and he's looking around. All he sees is the trail heading east, deeper into the woods. He can't see too far ahead. He's listening. He does not notice anything.
And he'll just continue to walk ahead, and then just trying to see if he'll kind of try and see if he can tap into the other consciousness and be like, "Are you sure this is the right way?"
The other consciousness speaks back to him. It's a weird relationship. It's not necessarily telepathic speech. It's more symbolic and abstract, but they understand each other perfectly. It's just not said out in direct speech, more like feelings and emotions, abstract
Abstract
yeses
thoughts.
and nos. Yep. So the consciousness kind of speaks back to him. He gets the feeling that yes, this is absolutely the right way. There's definitely knowledge to be gained if he follows this direction, and he gets the sense that it is somehow very personal to him.
And then he'll kind of, once again, like with the other consciousness kind of reconfirming, he'll kind of go into much more of like a serious kind of tone, and he'll kind of just keep looking forward and then just keep looking out for anything else.
All right, so do you travel to the east on the pathway?
Yes.
Okay. Following the pathway east, roll another nature check. There we go. Uh-oh. So traveling along the east to the east of this pathway, the forest gets dense and really thick and choked with weeds and tall grasses, and the trees close in. There's a moment where he kind of loses his bearings, and almost loses track of the trail for a moment. He pauses, looking around like, "Oh shit, where am I now?" Takes him and his parents a little more time to follow the trail again. They have to backtrack through where they've already been. His parents like, "Oh, Qualamir, you go too fast. You have to take your time. If you rush
They're
through
like,
things, this is what happens. You will lose your hit die for now."
okay.
You do come back to the trail, and you find where you went wrong. It seemed like the trail went off to the right, but really that was just the forest playing tricks on you. You're able to discern the trail continues to the left of a tree. And so you catch it again, going east, deeper into the woods, deeper into the choking wilderness. The trees close in around you, and the mist comes in.
You'll look
And
around. Is this like a natural mist or is this an unnatural mist?
it's a natural mist. It does not seem to have any unnatural inclinations to it.
Okay.
It
No,
is
not really
getting
dangerous.
it is getting a little darker now. The forest choking in on you kind of muffles sound, and there is an eerie silence. Finally, you come upon a break in the woods. Where you and your parents come upon this clearing. If you open, if you double click on your token, that'll, yep. Okay. You are on the outside looking in, still inside the tree line, and you notice these ruins. Your parents are behind you, and your mother calls softly, "Qualamir, what do you see? What is it?"
And then he'll say out loud, It looks to be some kind of ruins, though very old and unkept.
The father says, "Well, that's perfect. That's exactly what we were looking for. That was pretty easy. We found it well enough. Well, on ahead." So your father kind of pushes past you and starts walking into the area. Same with your mother.
And he'll walk behind him.
All right. The
Because he
minute
knows this is
you break
more
the
of their
tree...
expertise.
Sorry, what was that?
And he'll follow just behind because he knows that this is more of their expertise.
Yeah. Okay. So the minute you break the tree line, I need you to make a Constitution save at disadvantage.
I got just so I can click on it. Oof.
Ooh. The minute you break the tree line, your mind is assailed. Memories flooding through you, images, dangerous omens, an old crone chanting. It is too much for you to handle, and you pass out to the sound of your parents. Qualmir, Qualmir, what's wrong? What's going on? And then your eyes close into blackness. And then, after an undeterminate amount of time passes, you wake up here. Go ahead, double click your token. You wake up laying on an altar in an underground area with dusty, clouded mirrors around you. It is the middle of the night. All you can see are the moonbeams poking through the ceiling of this chamber.
He'll look around, scan the area for it, see if he can see his parents.
All right, roll perception. So you're looking around this chamber, sitting up. Your head's kind of groggy. Your sight is still just a little bit blurred. You're looking around, listening. You see nothing. You call out for your parents. You wait a little bit, and there are no answers.
He'll then attempt to stand up, and then try and get a fix of the room.
Okay, as you stand up, roll a Constitution save. So standing up, your body gets a little whoosh of dizziness, and you grab onto the altar to steady yourself. You do not fall down.
He goes, "Whew, what exactly happened?" As he tries to, his breath is a little heavy. He doesn't really know what happened, so he just kind of limps around and sees, and then tries to examine the immediate area.
Okay,
And then once he's done that, he'll kind of walk around.
Okay, roll an investigation. So looking around, he notices the mirrors are clouded over. They don't reflect very well after centuries of sitting here doing nothing. He does notice some runes on the altar, though. He recognizes it in Elvish script, but he cannot discern what they say at this time.
And then he'll make note that it's in Elvish, and he'll approach one of the mirrors, probably the one on the right side of the map.
Okay.
And then noticing that it's dusted, he'll probably take out like a piece of cloth and try and um, wipe it down to see exactly what shows.
Okay. Roll an investigation. So he wipes off the mirror of all the dust and centuries of laying, sitting, doing nothing. Slowly, the more he uncovers, the more it reveals of the room. It seems to give the looker a complete view of the room as it is convex. And you can actually see all around the room when you look into this mirror in different angles.
And then he'll look around the mirror to see if there's any arcane or any kind of like runes or any kind of like wordings.
So yeah, he's looking around the mirror on the edges. He does not notice any markings. Nothing to tell him there's anything arcane about this mirror.
Then he will probably proceed to do his curiosity of the room will probably get him to go to the other mirrors and then kind of slowly just walk towards the other ones and then clean them off too.
Okay, so he does the same for the other mirrors. And they all have a same perspective view of the room. The convex nature allows him to see all around the room when he looks into the mirror at different angles.
And then he'd like to see if there's a point where he could see all three mirrors at the same time, and then try and see what happens then.
Okay, so he moves around the room, looking at all the mirrors in different areas, different sequences. The closer he gets to the middle of the altar, the best perspective view he seems to find.
Then I'll kind of scratch his head, he'll look around again, and probably still looking at the mirrors, he's kind of perplexed on why they're there, and they must be there for something.
So, from your investigation roll, paying attention to the altar, it's raised on it's not raised a whole bunch, but maybe like a foot taller than the surrounding subterranean area. But the dais is raised, and on the altar, it is a big altar. It's not like a table. It's probably just like a step up from the rest of the dais, and it's big. It's like a big stone slab, probably about the size of a fully grown person.
And then he'll ponder if he wants to sit on it and see if it'll activate and see what'll happen. If you allow it, I'll like to roll a wisdom save for him to see if he does sit on it or not.
Go ahead.
Do low high. Nope, he definitely sits on it then.
Okay, so he sits on the altar, and the consciousness kind of calls out to him in some sort of remembrance. He gets these visions and this feeling of like danger when he's thinking to himself in the past, like it's a memory of danger, and the consciousness washes over him in a calming effect. There's a little blue-hued light emanating from his person, at which the arcane runes kind of seem to pulse around the altar.
Upon feeling his other consciousness feel not alarmed by this, he'll kind of look at the runes and try and look at the mirrors, see if anything has changed. Because he's not afraid now,
Yeah.
because he knows that the other consciousness is like, oh hey, this is kind of okay.
Yeah.
Nothing's bad's gonna happen.
Exactly. The consciousness is basically kind of just making him aware that this is significant to him, and that there are memories here. Oh damn! I got a follower. Thank you so much. I'm actually doing an origin story with one of my player characters for the upcoming campaign that I am hopefully starting next week. So I'm going through all their backstories as a sort of like mini session right now. I am full, but if you want to join my Discord or follow my Facebook group, then you can definitely join in on any of the future stuff that I do. I am very busy right now and I am kind of booked, but if you're interested in playing, I'm definitely interested in DMing. Thank you so much, Big Dan01. So, looking around this room, yeah, you get the sense that this consciousness in your body is kind of just informing you that this is significant. This is a memory, nothing to worry about, but it urges you to do something, like some type of action. Not necessarily that like you need to do anything to activate this, but there's some sort of action. Like it's not necessarily in this chamber. Maybe it's outside.
Okay. And then he'll take one last look at the mirrors, see that nothing has changed from his perspective on the altar, and then he'll, upon feeling that kind of feeling, he'll slowly start to walk out.
All right.
Every once in a while, he'll start to like look back at the mirrors to see if anything has changed or see if anything that's happened.
Yes, he looks back, the moonlight shining from the holes in the ceiling of this chamber. The mirrors don't seem to be changed at all, and the runes on the slab are no longer pulsing.
That happened as soon as he got off?
Yeah.
Okay. He'll take a mental note of that and be sure to tell that to his parents when he sees them next. He slowly tries to make his way out.
All right. So Qualamir exits the chamber, finds that he is at the top of the ruins that he and his parents first saw before he passed out. Make a perception check. Okay, so you notice, I would say, no, not that. Right here, there are some papers and a leather-bound journal, book-type looking thing, and some stuff over on top of this ledge with a pencil or markers, whatever, pencil, pens, quills, sprawled out on top of this flat edge, like someone was using it as a surface to write on.
He'll slowly approach the journal. He won't run towards it because he thinks that someone might be just around and they'll return and they'll see him trying to attempt to steal it. So he'll kind of like slowly kind of like look around, see if there's anyone in like the vicinity, and then after about 2-3 minutes, he'll start to look at the book and try and begin reading what was being written.
Okay, so looking around, make another perception check. There is still the eerie, muffled silence, as if the forest is keeping this area separate from the rest of the world. Other than that, you don't notice anything. But on closer inspection of these materials, you suddenly recognize that this is your parents' stuff.
He'll then begin to probably shout out loud, being like, "Mom! Dad!"
The silence of the forest greets you back. It
Kinda get
echoes,
like
your voice echoes hollowly upon the trees.
and then really realizing that there is no sound at all, he'll kind of be a little bit spooked, and he'll jump to the last page that was written in the journal, and then try and read what was written.
On the last page of the journal, you read, We found the last ruin of the town. It was only a short distance away, hidden into the woods. They choke around us. Qualamir passed out. We brought him up to the top, and looking inside, we found an altar, so we laid him down on top of that. My husband and I are going to go back up to the surface and try to figure out what's going on. Why did Qualamir pass out? And then all of a sudden, it trails off. Like there's a little squiggly on the last line that trails off the page.
Then he'll probably assume that something bad happened to them. He'll pick up the journal and like the quill and everything else, and then he'll kind of run around the area to see if there's any like tracks, or see if they kind of been like spirited away from like that spot. He won't go like outside of like the ruin area. So he won't go inside the forest, but he'll wander around the ruins, see if there's any kind of like tracks where they kind of like left, or to see if they left in a hurry, to see why they ran in a hurry.
Okay, go ahead and roll investigation.
And then, is there supposed to be a map on the screen?
What?
Is there supposed to be a map on the screen? Kind of got a gray slates.
Yeah. I had the map. Or double click on your token.
I see the.
Do you see it
the
now?
5-foot box.
Okay, but you don't see the map?
Gray. No.
How about now?
Nothing. So I'll just
weird.
continue the video
Okay.
and find stuff.
I wonder. All right. So you're trying to figure out what happened to your parents. Looking around, you can't tell. The mist is kind of blocking your vision. The silence is definitely brooding on your mind. It's eerie. This place definitely seems to be significant to you, but you're starting to get the heebie-jeebies. You cannot find any tracks to signal where your parents might have went. All that's left is their journal and a piece of their map, some of their notes.
He'll take that into his possessions, and then he'd probably wait around for about. Because is it still nighttime, or is it now like morning?
It's still nighttime.
Realizing that it is very late, he'd probably try to make camp on the outside of the ruins, not on the. He'd probably debate on whether to do it inside the ruins or outside the ruins, because both have their advantages and disadvantages. And then he'd probably try and make some kind of camp for the night, and then to see if his parents return in the middle of the night.
Okay.
In hopes that they do. Kind of fears that they are kind of gone.
Yes, so he waits in making camp with what he can in this ruin, waiting for his parents to come back, and they never do. He ends up waiting for sunrise where the light of the sun peeks through the forest trees at an awkward angle. The mist disappears.
He'll have a somber look about himself, and then he'll kind of say to himself that he's like, I'll find you. I'll find out what happened. It must have been what happened to these villagers, and he'll kind of, and then probably go back into the ruins and then see if anything has changed now that the mist has gone.
Yes. Okay. So, it is 11 o'clock, so I'm going to kind of speed this forward a little bit. So he goes back into the ruins, doesn't notice anything different except for the eerie silence is kind of gone, and it seems more like a normal forest at this point. So he hears the sounds of chirping birds and animals skittering about. Looking into the mirrors, nothing has changed. The runes can still be seen on the altar. Stepping on the altar, they do not light up, but he also does not feel or sense the presence of his consciousness when he steps on the altar.
He'll kind of take just a deep sigh, and then he'll kind of trace over like the glyphs to make sure that he can use them for a different day and he can study it later. And then he'll try and proceed out of the forest, and in hopes to try and find a clue about what happened to these people, since that's what he believes also took his family.
Yes. So you're able to trace over the runes, get the inscription. You don't recognize the syntax of these runes, but you have them for later inspection. And you make your way back to the village, which is still empty and eerily silent. No sign of any life. Looking into the biggest hut again where there was the disturbance, nothing seems to be changed or new. All you have left is to go back to the original village and basically search for your parents, any clue of your parents. None of the villagers say they've seen your parents or heard anything about that. You're kind of all alone in the world again. And so Qualamir now goes on in search of what happened to his parents, trying to find out the significance of this rune, traveling from town to town, doing his own archaeological research. But his quest is to find his parents, which will bring him to, what's it called? The Wieldath? Or what is it? The Green Fields. So this brings him to the area of the Green Fields. What? Oh, man. There we go. Okay. So this will bring him to the area of the Green Fields, traveling from Burdusk to that area. And off in the distance, he actually spots some smoke rising on the horizon. Seems to be a lot of smoke, saturated in its presence, which is a sign that something is burning, something big is burning. Do you wish to investigate?
Yes, I'll probably go running to the scene and then to see if anyone needs any kind of medical aid.
All right. So at the sign of this smoke, he knows it's significant and someone might be in trouble, in need of help, so he runs forth to investigate. And that is where we will end.
Perfect.
All right. So there we go. That actually took a lot longer than I thought, but I loved every second of it. That was actually really fun.
It was pretty good. We had some. I had good rolls at the beginning, but then halfway through they all turned to single digits.
Yeah, you got rid of all your good rolls in the beginning. I don't know. I had like my spine was crawling a little bit at the beginning. Even I don't know about you.
It was real good.
Yeah.
Just the role play as the as just as the dad who's like debating and he's like, I have to do it, I don't want to do it.
So you liked
Definitely
it?
got yeah, it was some very good role play for it all.
Thank you very much. That was awesome. I'm not even gonna lie. That was awesome. That kind of burst my own expectations. I wish I could have had a little bit more time to prep, but honestly, I'm pretty happy with that. That was fun.
Yeah, did pretty good.
All right, thank you so much, M. Weber. Glad you liked the origin session. We will definitely learn more about Qualamir and maybe where his parents have gone, what happened to them, any more of his origin story, where he came from. Tune in to session 1 of the Tyranny of Dragons campaign to find out how it all fits together and find out the other characters in this. So thank you so much for tuning in for this origin session of Qualamir, the twin brothers.
Thank you.
Yep. I will see you in session 1.
Yep.
And now I will be right back because I have to use the restroom.